Greetings, Culture Warriors. This is Jeff Vieira, author of Culture is Everything, and your host for this Dispatch from the Front. Today, I want to talk to you about something which has unfortunately become somewhat of a trend. Some weeks ago, we shared the story of a company, who shall remain nameless for the moment, which took the unusually cruel and cowardly step of laying off 40% of its workforce over a Zoom meeting. I never expected at the time that something so stupid could possibly become a trend. And yet it has. Today we take a look at another company that really should have known better. I've got a story for you. This is from the Huffington Post. How Weight Watchers fired workers via Zoom. The new cruel COVID-19 layoff tool. Many of them were devoted longtime members of the iconic weight loss program. They're heartbroken. This is by Emily Peck. Weight Watchers employees were busier than ever these past few months as the coronavirus pandemic heightened eating issues for many people. From those locked down at home obsessing over what to eat, to essential workers turning to food for comfort and to soothe anxieties. A doctor who spent her days tending to COVID-19 patients, many of whom died, was among those who talked with Erica Stein. Until recently, Stein, age 50, was working online chat shifts for Weight Watchers, or WW as it now calls itself. The company offers a 24/7 online support feature for paying members. At the end of the day, she reached for a pint of ice cream and potato chips, Stein said. And the doctor, who's on the front lines of a pandemic, said this extremely relatable eating episode made her feel like a failure. A heartbreaking notion familiar to all of us who rate ourselves on how good our eating has been instead of, well, any other metric. I said, "Oh my gosh, you're not a failure. Don't be so hard on yourself. Show yourself some kindness," Stein recalled. The doctor thanked her for the support. "I felt like I was doing something worthwhile," Stein said. Not anymore. Weight Watchers unceremoniously dumped Stein and many others last week in audio-only Zoom calls that lasted mere minutes. Employees logged in and listened to a manager read from a script. Their voices were muted so they couldn't ask questions. They were told not to talk about it with anyone. Some of those now former Weight Watchers employees told Huffington Post. When the call was over, they were shut out of all Weight Watchers employee websites and their emails were closed down by the weekend. Some of those who were laid off had worked decades for the company and had started out as members trying to lose weight themselves. Weight Watchers would not say how many employees were let go worldwide when asked about an anonymous post on thelayoff.com that claimed thousands were fired. But the company reported to the federal government that it had 17,000 employees, a majority of whom are part-time, as of December 2019. And last week it said in public filings that it would be cutting its workforce amid the pandemic-driven economic downturn, and that it expected to spend $12 million in employee termination payments and related costs. As the COVID-19 crisis has forced the closure of our physical studios around the world, we have had to make some difficult decisions that have directly impacted the lives of some of our valued team members, the company said in a statement provided to the HuffPost. We thank them for all their efforts on behalf of our members during their years of service. The pandemic has accelerated the company's big plan to move more of its services online in an appeal to a younger demographic. Weight Watchers has 3,000 studios around the country. Amid the current crisis, it has taken the 30,000 weekly workshops held there and put them online, USA Today has reported. It recently said it would start reopening some physical locations, but many would not reopen. Weight Watchers declined to answer specific questions as to why it fired those who were already working remotely. Instead, it told HuffPost, "Our digital transformation also includes the evolution of all of our customer interfaces and coaching platforms, and we are reorganizing as such." Got that? HuffPost talked to 5 former employees, all women, all 50 and over. They said a number of their laid-off co-workers are also older. They hail from a generation that didn't talk about self-care or wellness or body positivity, but like the company's iconic founder, Gene Nidetch, just wanted to look slim. We are from an era where there were a lot of housewives who wanted to stay home and raise kids, single income families, said one former employee who was in her 60s from New Jersey. Now, women, thank God, have evolved to have careers. No one young would stay there for that kind of money. Stein and other former employees, said they didn't think the layoffs were ageist. They said some younger women had also been let go. But Stein did think the company's transition to digital has been hard for its most devoted members, who she said have struggled as the company has switched its guidance from, say, tracking your food intake on paper to tracking it on your phone. They were trying to be hip trendy when their core group is senior citizens. Rather than adapt and have both, they were shutting one out. Stein said they weren't respecting the true loyal fan base. And those are the people who love their Weight Watchers. They wouldn't miss a meeting, she said. Socially distant layoffs have become the thing to do during the pandemic. Scooter company Bird, that's who we referred to a couple of weeks ago, laid off 400 employees in a 2-minute Zoom chat that the company's CEO later said he regretted. Uber fired 3,700 workers via Zoom earlier this month. The coldly remote firing method is leaving people reeling at an already stressful time. The Weight Watchers employees told HuffPost they were devastated by the way the layoffs were handled. For these women, working at Weight Watchers was less a job than a mission. They'd all started out as members trying to lose weight. They'd managed to reach their goal weight and stayed around to help others do the same. There were bumps along the way. Several mentioned the challenge of maintaining your weight while going through menopause. The idea that the company would let them go en masse in just minutes, they said, was like being abandoned by a spouse or betrayed by a best friend. I started the program really hard in 2014. I was 285 pounds and decided it was time, said Nancy, a 51-year-old former employee on Long Island. Before then, she'd been going to meetings but kind of floundering, she said. Then I really dove into it. I was active in my meetings and became really good friends with the members, and they were all like, you need to be a leader. It became my goal. Nancy asked that the HuffPost not publish her last name for fear of retaliation from the company, which still owes her another paycheck. Every pound I lost was another round closer to working with Weight Watchers, she said. That's why this is so emotional for me. They took that away. I worked so hard for it. Not getting to say goodbye to members also really hurt, she said. One of the women she worked with had died of COVID-19. The woman's sister called to let her know. I was the first person she called, Nancy said. She contrasted that with the way the company handled the firings. Here I am being told, you're expendable. Stein, who lives in Manhattan, has depressive disorder, among other conditions. The abrupt firing was a shock, she said. She cried for days afterward and scheduled an emergency appointment with her psychiatrist. As someone who suffers from mental illness, to be fired like that felt very difficult for me. She said working for the company part-time had been a sort of perfect job for someone with her health issues. She started working for Weight Watchers about 6 years ago after losing more than 100 pounds, she said. The work got her out of the house to meetings around New York City. Stein did standalone meetings at WW Properties, and she went to other companies like NBC and Google and worked with employees there who wanted to lose weight. When the pandemic shut down in-person meetings, she started doing customer service for Weight Watchers online. During a time of such uncertainty in the city, she said, the one thing in my life that stayed the same was I still had my work. Okay, there's more in the article there. Please do read it, but I think you get the gist of it. And before I comment on it, I just want to go over, you heard a lot of the sense of mission that these people had for Weight Watchers. So I went over to their website and I wanted to share with you that mission that they're talking to, that so resonated with so many people. This is from the Weight Watchers website. Not every company has the opportunity to impact the lives of millions. We do. We are a wellness company powered by the world's leading sustainable weight loss program. For years, we've inspired millions to come together and begin a journey of positive, lasting change, to move more, to eat well, to connect with others, to celebrate their victories, to overcome their challenges, to reach what they never thought was possible. Yet our greatest potential lies ahead of us. Today, wellness has become a social phenomenon. Even though people are thinking in healthier ways, they aren't getting healthier. Worldwide obesity has nearly tripled since 1975. We can help solve that paradox. We see a future of far greater impact driven by a single purpose. We inspire healthy habits for real life. For people, families, communities, the world, for everyone. This purpose will drive every business decision we make. We know you and meet you where you are. From the products we launch to the communities we build to the content we create, to the science we incorporate. All of this will help us create a ripple effect of change. We help you build powerful habits rooted in science, because when one person chooses healthy habits, their family changes too. They inspire their friends, their colleagues. We enable you to find and form inspired communities. Person by person, community by community, health spreads. We believe that healthy living is a human right, and we aspire to make wellness accessible to all, not just the few. This is our mission. And I will tell you, after having read about your Zoom layoffs, that mission is complete and utter nonsense. You don't believe a word of it. Why? So many of your employees resonated with this vision. They experienced it themselves. They started out as customers, and then they went on to try and help people. Weight Watchers is pretty clearly built along a similar model to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's taking people who had an unhealthy relationship with food and helping them work through the issues that drove that relationship and see positive results from it for their health, for their well-being, for the people around them. It's about reclaiming their lives from something that had taken it over. These are the people who were just let go in a phone call where they couldn't even see a human face on the other end of the line, where they couldn't say a word, where they couldn't even chat goodbye on the way out. Nothing. Unnecessary, because while they're talking about the need to close down physical locations where their programs were held, and I doubt they probably didn't physically own many of that. That was they probably leased it. They were moving to an online model, which required people who could give testimony and counseling the way these people could, and yet they gave them the axe. Did it sound like, as I was relaying the way they were let go and the impact it had upon them, did it sound like the company gave a fig about their wellness? If you were working for a company, for example, that did drug counseling, and your staff was comprised of people who suffered from drug addiction, would you fire them in the most inhuman and stressful way you could? Would you not check up on them? Would you not first make sure they were okay? So if you have to let them go, you have to let them go. But you can do so in a human and caring way that doesn't sever the relationship, that doesn't cut off the link that they need in order to maintain their sobriety. And yet that is what was done to these people, some of whom had mental illness issues, which they no doubt had to know would be exacerbated by the shock of the way they chose to lay them off. What kind of cold, unfeeling automaton could pull the trigger on this, knowing how many of these workers utterly devoted to the company, who bought into the culture as it was described, would be impacted by this? This isn't just about a layoff. They built a community. Their whole model relies upon that community. It's people helping each other out, encouraging one another. That's their business model. And they jerked it away from their own people instantly. They don't believe a word of what they put down there. Whoever is running the show over at Weight Watchers is not a believer. Can't be. You could never do what they just did if you actually believed in the wellness of human beings. You can see in the official response when you hear the gobbledygook. It's, unpack those sentences. It all means absolutely nothing. And it doesn't address the real issue, which is, why did you choose to do this way? You would think that given everyone's need to kind of avoid packing on the pounds, during this pandemic lockdown, when the only thing you have in your house that's new day to day is probably the food you ordered from somewhere, and you're spending your time inside, you're not outside, you're not active, you're not seeing people. So if you have a need to interact with other human beings, and I will guarantee you that the people who run the Weight Watchers company have no such need. But for the rest of us, if you actually need to talk to somebody, to see another human face during the course of a day or a week, and now you're locked down without that, you've been denied it. You've been told it's selfish for even desiring such a thing. And you have a propensity to have an unhealthy relationship with food. What do you think is going to happen? All the gyms are closed. It just beguiles belief here that you've got these type of people who are so brazen and don't give a fig about the reputation that's been built up over decades. They just throw it all out the window because they're either too cowardly to look somebody in the eye when they change their life, or they simply don't care. If you are considering Weight Watchers as a program, I suggest you read this article first and consider whether you want to spend your time and money on lining the pockets of people who are absolutely inhuman in this fashion. If your values align with theirs after reading this, well, then I guess you found your program. But for the rest of the world, I hope you find another. And God bless these people who have spent years and years helping other human beings through this, not getting paid exorbitant amounts of money to do so, but availing of their time and of their energy and of their passion and of their human concern to try to help people through a rough patch in their life and get them to a better day. God willing, there are people out there who will help you in this time of unemployment and uncertainty and help you get back on track so that you can continue to help others. What a travesty this story is. I don't have any pithy tagline for you today other than to say, stay away from Weight Watchers. They're an absolutely toxic, poisonous company. God bless you and have a great day.